The name's John Wareham. I'm just a volunteer with the Coleshill Auxiliary Research Team. I've been with them since 2016. So I just help out with a display that I've got and go around the local fetes and villages and try and introduce people to what these boys did.
And I'm Roger Green. I'm a volunteer with the National Trust, but also a volunteer with the Coleshill Auxiliary Research Team as well. And I take school children round and explain what happened here during the war. We also have open days as well. We take more people round.
Now, your website is www.staybehinds.com. So what is the Stay Behind?
Stay behind because that's what they did. These chaps who were trained here, they stayed behind and waited for the enemy to appear or invade. They hid. Then when they passed over, they popped up and started blowing things up, such as the fuel dumps. If you haven't got fuel, you can't advance.
So they were kind of guerrilla saboteurs?
Very much so, very much so. It's the first time a resistance group, if you like, was set up before an invasion. Normally, the resistance groups are set up after an invasion.
So do you want to just say something about what the timing in the war? Because the war started in 1939.
After Dunkirk, it was realised then that we were next, and Hitler had already got organised an invasion, which was called... What was it called? Sea Line, that's it, yeah. Operation Sea Line, yeah. And that's when they realised that, we're next. So let's get something in operation so that we can at least delay them so that our troops, who were a bit of a disarray by then, could get organised, ready to defend properly. But these guys, they were told, if you come across a group of the enemy, don't take them on, back off, take them on another day, because they'd be outnumbered.
Why are we in Coleshill? I mean, this is a tiny little village. No one would even notice. It's about 20 minutes from Swindon.
You said it.
Coleshill had a big house here, which it was set in a considerable amount of land, and it was ideal. It was sort of central, so everybody from the south coast could come here, be trained, and then sent back to their units. Here was an ideal base for all of the trainers to come from all over the world.
Well, yeah, but it was an invisible base. I mean, this is the sort of thing you wouldn't even spot if you were to drive through it, walk through it, or from the air.
No, indeed. And these boys were to keep secret for 50 years. So this whole base was secret for 50 years.
So what was actually here, hidden away?
It was just the headquarters, and people came here for training. So we had over 3,000 people came here for training. And they would come for a long weekend. So this is when the big house was here, and they had an operational base, as they call it, a bunker, underground bunker, that showed them how to operate one, how to make one, how to live in one. And they also went under training, how to make explosive, how to blow things up, how to kill people. They were very efficient. And some of these guys, they got a bit frustrated because they weren't fighting, and they joined things like the SAS. And we know of 6 that joined the SAS. They were flown behind enemy lines into France, and unfortunately they were caught, and they were inoculated with cyanide. And unfortunately, if we had been invaded, the same kind of result would have happened here. These guys, because they were civilians, they weren't in the military at all. They were trained by the military, but they were civilians. They would be people like farmers, gamekeepers, foresters, people who could live off the land, basically. Yeah, they were highly trained. Yeah,
they were trained in these sorts of survival skills.
Indeed, yeah. But of course, a lot of these guys, like farmers, they knew how to live off the land. But if we had been invaded, the survival rate was supposed to be about 2 weeks before they were caught and captured. But at the end of the war, they got a letter saying, "Thank you very much, don't say anything," because it was deemed, if you like, ungentlemanly conduct, or ungentlemanly warfare.
You've got a nice little display here. You were saying you're taking around local villages and things.
Yes.
Actually, quite a lot to look at. You've got railway lines that look like it's got a little bit of Semtex stuck on the line to blow it to bits.
Most of this stuff is homemade. I've put it together as
it's not real Semtex then?
No. There was a story about somebody who used to go around with marzipan coloured as the Noble 808, but unfortunately the drug dog could sniff it out, and the proper explosive smells like marzipan. So there was a bit of a hoo-ha about that, and he had to use plasticine in the end. But no, this is just purely chip wrapper. I mean, the paper on it is actually the paper that you would have your fish and chips wrapped up in. The cardboard boxes there were made up with the cardboard carrier bags that you carry your chips home in, all that sort of thing. Everything's just Blue Peter stuff.
Quite a lot of guns here. Are they all British guns?
There's a Martini rifle at the top, which they would have used as a sniper rifle. There's a Thompson machine gun, which would have been sent over from America. That was under the sort of auspices of helping out the English, but it basically went to us first. The army didn't get a look in until we'd been supplied. There's also an MP40 there, which of course is a German weapon, but these boys would have been trained with a German weapon, because if they needed to, they knew how to use them. And if the Germans had landed, they could have used their weapons as well as ours. So they were trained in all sorts of things: unarmed combat, rifles, explosives, surveillance, anything that was needed was trained. And some of these boys were chosen because of what they were good at. Poachers, gamekeepers, but a baker who worked from 2 o'clock in the morning, he could walk around at night. He knew where he was going.
So we're in Coleshill, but you've also got a sign here saying it's also Purbeck's best kept secret, so it doesn't sound like this was the only base.
No. Once you get involved with one little thing, it tends to spread like branches of a tree, and you end up...
What has your group been doing here today?
We've started doing a 360-degree camera system, so that these OBs, if we find the operational base and it's intact, we can put a camera in it, and then you, as a general public, can look around it without actually endangering yourself.
Okay, so you've got a little diagram here of what looks like a kind of a little office barracks building of some sort under the ground. So how big were these?
You're looking at about 21 metres, something like that.
All told, yeah.
21 metres in length, maybe 4 metres in width, and 3 or 4 metres in height, and probably buried about 2 feet just under the metre underground.
So there may be some of those in Coleshill here and other villages?
We've got a mock-up which the Coleshill estate have created. We do have training bunkers here that were from the wartime. There are loads of them out there, and we haven't found no more than half of them at the moment.
So if someone thinks that they might... I mean, what do they look like from the top? Is it just a kind of a hatch or a metal cover over the top of it, a wooden cover or what?
Some of them have been discovered because children have found a piece of wire and pulled it, and the hatch have popped up. Others, you'll get a sort of sinkage in the ground, and that's the roof collapsing, because after 70 to 80 years, that roof, which is steel, is starting to rot out. You might find an odd manhole somewhere, or maybe even a bit of drainage pipe that you think, well, what's that for? Because it's nothing. But it could have been the vent pipes for these things.
We know also that the radio communications was a very important part of all of this. It's no point having an auxiliary unit, which these were, without it being able to communicate with others.
Well, there was a special duties branch, but one didn't know the other, in actual fact.
That was sensible, wasn't it?
Yeah,
as we know with the resistance and the Mackeys on the continent, they had to operate in small cells so that they couldn't betray the others.
And one cell didn't know the next cell. Yeah, obviously, yeah. If one had been caught, they didn't want them to spread the news about the other.
So how did they communicate?
Well, if we'd been invaded, they wouldn't communicate with each other. The radios mainly were to find out what was happening out there, the invasion forces. So they could leave messages in these dead letterboxes for somebody to pick up and then transmit back to HQ, in effect, eventually. So they knew where all the troops were and what troops were around.
So this is like modern spycraft, isn't it? The dead letterbox.
Yeah. And we've got some dummies here. We've got one hidden in a bolt that goes into a fence post.
Sounds like quite a lot of fun in Coleshill.
Oh, yeah.
You could almost set, children and maybe adult children as well, to go and see if they can find whereabouts these people are.
We do. We have that. We have something called Secrets and Spies for the children, and they come here and they learn all about it. And one of the things they do is hunt for these messages. So the one in the gatepost, then they'll find one in probably a brick, another one in a tennis ball, and it passes them round, and then finish up at the special duties base in the chicken hut, where they go and see what this secret radio station looked like.
Now, you're holding in your hand a bolt. Looks like it's been taken out of a car or lorry or something.
Yep. Something that's dropped out down on the road or come out of a gatepost. But the end of it does unscrew. Now, of course, they would have used a left-hand thread, because if you try and unscrew something normally, it would just tighten on the left-hand thread.
Right.
So that would be partly the secret.
See, the head of the bolt, I mean, it comes off. The head of the bolt comes off.
Indeed, yeah, and the message inside. The same with a telegraph pole. You might have if you've noticed on the telegraph pole, there's usually a label or something like that, but it might come out and you've got a hidden message. And of course, if it's a triangle, if the top of it is flat, the message is in there, and if the top of it is pointed, the message isn't.
But what about radio communications? No, you're saying what if there was an invasion, that would have to all stop?
Well, I think some of it will still go on. If they're being listened to, they might give false information, which I think they did do. They used those radios to give false information for D-Day. There's very little known about this Special Duties branch, actually.
You're still finding out things, aren't you? So anyway, if people are interested, either in coming down to Coleshill or coming along to one of your exhibitions or whatever, how do they follow it?
Well, they can either go to the website, which is www.staybehinds.com, which gives them a wealth of information. I can guarantee once you get on there, you'll be there for a fortnight. You can actually identify if you have relations who might have been involved on that as a database. Also, at Coleshill, we open once a month between April and October in the afternoon, Sunday afternoon, second Sunday of the month. The exception being the first one, because of Easter, we're opening on April the 16th. People are more than welcome to come along, and we take them for a little tour around the replica operational base.
So, but the thing is, the British weren't the only to have these stay-behind units, were they? And whenever there's a war, there is an attempt to do this. As the front advances, the other side, including the Germans, maybe even in Ukraine now.
Yeah. I think, there were others. I believe there were some in Germany as well. But this is documented more, probably because we, are finding out about it, and investigating more.
Why so much secrecy?
Who knows, But I think during the war...
And even the Cold War, maybe these tactics were still being used. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, once they signed the Official Secrets Act, it's forever, in actual fact. But about 10, 11 years ago, we actually got a letter from the government to say these guys can now talk about it officially.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe some of the tradecraft has moved on, and they don't mind people discussing it.
No.
Can you just? I don't know if you're doing these exhibitions elsewhere. How can people come along and see some of this stuff and talk to you guys?
I'm hoping to get over to the Isle of Wight this year. I'm waiting to see whether they're going to have me, whether they've got space for me. But normally, I get invited to local fetes and fairs on the Purbex. There's one coming up at Chickerell as well, near Weymouth. But my diary is sort of filled up in April, usually, with people screaming at me saying, can you come along?
Let me just say something about this truck, because we're looking at it. It's a trailer that you tow behind your car.
Yeah.
But only half of it is used. You took me around the back and showed me that there's a little peephole. You can look in the back of this, and there's something else going on.
Yes, it's my little homage to the SD section. The van is...
Which is what?
Which is the special radio operators. The whole van is made up to look like a chicken hutch for that reason. Around the back I've made up a little homage to them by having a visual chickens in the visual hutch. But if you click the switch that's there the other way, it shows the man in the other end behind a hidden wall.
So the idea is that you might peep in to check it was a real chicken hutch, and you'll see all the chickens. But what you don't realise is there's a little partition at the end where there's someone actually communicating.
Yeah, secret wall.
Okay, just if you could just tell us again how people can follow this.
If you're at a local fair in the Purbex, you're probably going to see me. I'm always there. I'm at Harman's Cross, August Bank Holiday usually. And if you want to, you can look up on my website, the Creech Barrow 7, and you can have a look at my stuff on there.
The Creech, CREECH, Barrow, BARROW 7, the letters SEVEN, .simdiff, SIMDIF.com.
Yep.
Okay, thanks very much.
That's okay, it's a pleasure. Thank you.